Most people picture compassion and teamwork, but conflict? It's honestly everywhere, and not always for the reasons you'd expect. In a busy hospital with so many different professionals, stress is just part of the package.
Absolutely. And what surprises me is that conflict isn't all doom and gloom. Sure, it can be draining, but when it's managed, right? It can actually lead to fresh ideas and better teamwork. I've seen tense moments turn into breakthroughs, both for patient care and for the nurses themselves.
That makes me think sometimes conflict is like a warning signal. It's telling us something isn't quite right. Maybe it's a miscommunication. Maybe expectations aren't lining up. The challenge is figuring out how to listen to those signals, instead of just reacting with frustration.
Exactly. And in nursing, those signals can be everywhere. Take a shift change, for example. If one nurse feels overwhelmed while another seems to breeze by, resentment builds fast. But if you talk about it early, you can actually adjust and support each other. It's those little honest conversations that prevent bigger blowouts.
You mentioned early conversations, and that ties right into the conflict process itself. There are really 4 stages. Potential conflict, where tension is simmering just below the surface. Cognition and personalization, where people start to really notice and feel it. Then it transforms into behavior. Think arguments or avoidance. And finally, the outcome, for better or worse.
What I find interesting is that not every conflict makes it through all 4 stages. Sometimes, just recognizing a potential problem like 2 nurses clashing over scheduling means you can address it before it explodes. But if it reaches the behavior stage, suddenly you're dealing with real, visible issues on the floor.
And those outcomes can be so different. If a conflict is handled well, it can lead to stronger teams and higher motivation. But when it's swept under the rug, you see the opposite. Lost trust, lower morale, and even patient care can take a hit.
That's the part that hits hardest, honestly. It's not just about staff feeling grumpy, it's the ripple effect. When nurses are distracted by tension, the whole atmosphere changes and patients notice too. That's why managing conflict isn't just a soft skill, it's essential for quality care.
That actually brings us to the types of conflict nurses experience. It's not just nurse versus doctor, right? There's internal conflict, the kind where you feel torn between your own values and your job demands. Then there's conflict with other nurses, with supervisors, even with patients and their families.
Exactly. And within a unit, you see group conflicts over things like workload or decision-making. Then there's classic vertical conflict tension between supervisors and staff, or horizontal conflict between colleagues at the same level. Sometimes, the lines are really blurry, especially when job roles aren't clearly defined.
I've heard so many stories about confusion over who's responsible for what, especially during busy shifts. That, plus communication breakdowns and just plain too much work, really seem to be the main fuel for these conflicts.
That's true, and sometimes ethical dilemmas add another layer, like disagreements about end-of-life care or how resources are allocated. It's tough because everyone wants what's best for the patient, but not everyone agrees on what that looks like. And if the team can't talk it through, resentment festers.
Okay, so conflicts are everywhere. How do nurses actually resolve them? There are 5 main strategies, and I love the animal symbols for each. There's the owl collaborating, where you really try to find a win-win. The teddy bear is accommodating, putting others first. The shark is competing sometimes. You've got to stand your ground.
Right, and then there's the turtle avoidance, just pulling back and hoping the storm blows over. Finally, the fox, which stands for compromise. That's meeting halfway, making sure both sides give a little. I've seen nurses use all these strategies depending on the situation and who they're dealing with.
It's funny, sometimes you think avoidance is harmless, but in nursing, letting problems fester can make them way worse. Still, there are situations where stepping back is actually smart, like when emotions are running too high for a productive talk.
And compromise isn't a cop-out either. Sometimes, just getting everyone to agree on something, even if it's not perfect for anyone, is what keeps the department running smoothly. But when there's time and trust, collaboration the OWL approach really brings out the best results.
So, for nurses listening in, what's the takeaway? First, conflict is normal. It doesn't mean you're failing. The real skill is in facing it openly, encouraging honest communication, asking questions, and trying to see things from the other side can turn tension into real teamwork.
Definitely. And if things get heated, sometimes it takes a neutral voice, maybe a senior nurse or manager to help mediate. The key is diving into the real reasons behind the conflict instead of just patching things up on the surface.
And honestly, tracking what happens matters too. Documenting the steps taken, following up, and making sure the solution sticks can prevent the same issues from coming back again and again.
Plus, never underestimate the power of empathy. Just acknowledging someone's frustration can go a long way. When teams focus on solutions instead of blame, not only does the work environment improve, but patient care gets a boost as well.